Hello and welcome to the DPDL Talent Development Podcast, brought to you by Double Pass. I'm your host, Sarthak Dubey, and this is a show where we talk about grassroots football, picking the brains of some of the leading experts in the field of talent development. In today's episode, I have with me a very special person, someone who's been with us right from the beginning of DPDL, right? And the reason we've got him on today's podcast is because uh, it's teams and its journeys like his that really make our league what it really is, right? The stories, the legends of DPDL 10 years from now, I think we'll always remember the first champion of DPDL. um, he's a coach with a very unique story, with a very unique journey into Indian football, and I'm delighted to welcome Coach Bo Renes on today's show. Bo, excited to have you here. How do you feel?
I feel good. Sartak, thanks for having me, and really enjoyed being here. You and I have known each other now for quite some time, so I think it's neat to be able to connect together and kind of reflect on some of the awesome things that have happened, but then also maybe look forward to some things. So no, life is good. I'm good. I hope you're doing well as well.
Absolutely. And Bo, before we begin, I know on a personal note, just before we begin, congratulations from the DPDL team, from everyone here at Double Pass. You've become a proud grandfather, and we couldn't be happier for you and your family. So congratulations from our side.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Holly and I are super excited. You know, we welcomed a granddaughter, and man, you just don't know how to describe it. So, but it is amazing and really awesome. So it's a new phase in our life, a new journey, but it is really, really good. So we appreciate that. Thank you.
And Bo, has anyone told you you're the youngest grandfather and the best looking one that they've seen?
No, but I mean, looks can be deceiving. So I don't feel young. There's a little bit of wear and tear, but well, I appreciate it. So this is a good start to this podcast. Thank you. So no,
good stuff. Fantastic. We're super happy for you, and we're obviously looking forward to having you at DPDL again very soon, right? So Bo, let's get started with the journey itself, right? Now, it's very important, I think, for all our listeners, to first understand before a team like BCFC became a champion. Of course, there's a journey behind it. There's a story behind it. There's a vision behind it, right? And I think that's all connected to the owner, to the founder, the person who really got this rolling. Of course, I know you're a team guy, and you will give credit to everyone else, but of course, it's your journey as well that really got this started here, right? So first, why don't you tell our listeners a bit about your footballing background and your journey into Indian football and how it all began?
Yeah, so I'm originally from the Netherlands or Holland, and I grew up there, and so like many people in Holland, we bike a lot. We perhaps eat a lot of like licorice, and but also we love soccer or football, and so growing up in Europe, football is not just what you do necessarily, but it also is part of life, and it was part of my upbringing. So from a young age, I was able to play and at a local club, and just fell in love with the beautiful game, fell in love with the community engagement, with the people that were around there, and were being part of the club, like going out in the little town that I grew up in, and then you had the butcher shop or the bakery, and talking to them about the next match, or people on the streets wishing you good luck for the next match. So that became a really big piece of my life. Really enjoyed it. Somewhat became good at it, and which then took me into opportunities to play in different parts of Europe. And then it started growing and growing, and it gave me the opportunity to go to the USA and to play there. And so it really brought me to kind of this international flavor of football, not just in Europe, but then also overseas.
Right.
It was overseas in Sartak where I met my wife. She also played football, and so that was really
I didn't know
neat.
this. I didn't know
Yeah.
this.
So so the story is one day I was getting my boots on, my cleats, and I was sitting on the sides in the stands and looked on the field, and the women's team was playing, and I saw this goalkeeper in goal, and I was like, okay, so I need to talk to her and maybe give some tips or hints. Anyway, that was Holly. That's my wife, and
Yes.
she. So that's how that started. So she played. Anyway, we got married at a very young age, had kids at a very young age. We went back to Europe, played a lot more football there, and some really neat opportunities. Fast forward, eventually I ended up working in corporate America. So still a big part of football, still, loving football, watching, playing at a certain level, but then also working in corporate America and kind of living, what I call the like this American dream, so to speak, because we moved back to the USA. But during that time, missed football a lot, just being around it. And that's where India kind of came in play. So Holly and I in 2008 took a vacation. We were always intrigued by India, by the nation, the people, the food, the culture. And, it looked so amazing just researching it. We decided in 2008 to visit this great nation of India. And so when we got there and arrived, we just fell in love with the country, fell in love with the people, fell in love with the food, fell in love with the culture. But then I also looked around and I'm like, there is no football, or I didn't see it at that time. There wasn't certainly as much as there is now.
Yeah.
And that's really where I started dreaming big. I'm like, what if, what was a big piece of my life early on in my childhood in Europe, and then what if I can give that opportunity to players in India, in Southern Asia? And so Holly and I talked long and hard, and though the corporate life was comfortable, we were set for an early retirement, life was good, it didn't feel as fulfilling. And so we decided, like, hey, why don't we start up our own thing and give this a shot in India? And I got to tell you, Sarthak, a lot of people are like, football in India, it's all cricket, it will never work. It might be too hot or too rainy, or there's no facilities. But like I said, dreaming big, asking big, coming expecting is something we believe in. And so we in 2009 pretty much sold our belongings. I resigned from this really great job, and we came to India and started this journey that we're still on right now.
Amazing. I didn't know this. I really didn't know this this part, because when we spoke last, um, um, I remember you mentioning that you were coaching the army team as well at some point. Is that correct?
So, just had some really cool opportunities to come in, and things just grew really quickly from in different angles once we've got to India. And then I realized that, hey, there's something here, like in regards to not just a beautiful culture and amazing people, but there's something also here football wise that we're at the tip of the iceberg. There's something that's going to break in India
Yeah.
that we've not seen before this early on. I mean, we're talking about 12, 13 years ago, and things certainly were a little bit different. I mean, yes, there was football in India, and yes, there were opportunities, but I mean, not in the scale of what we're seeing now. So when we picked up on that and we saw the growth and different avenues the coach opened, I realized that, hey, we're onto something here that could be something really successful potentially for the long haul, and we wanted to be a small part of that.
Absolutely. I mean, to identify that in the year 2008, to identify that early, I think that was a great call, huh? Because if I remember correctly, 2008 was the year the Indian Premier League, which is the cricket league, was launching, and for you to identify football back then, I'm sure you were looking at a very long-term plan, weren't you?
Yeah, truth. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Absolutely.
but here's what I've learned, Sartak, and I think our listeners would agree to that, is football is not limited to a geographical area. Every nation or continent might have certain sports that are more popular than others, but I do believe football overall you'll find across the world. So when I didn't see it as much yet in India, I was like, hey, listen, if the Argentina can produce a Messi, if Portugal can produce Ronaldo, if Holland can produce a Bergkamp, then what can we do here in India, which is a much bigger nation and with some amazing athletes? And so that's where that big dream came. Like you said, a long-term dream. Was it going to happen right away? But my goal is to identify, create, nurture, invest in local Indian talent, and hopefully one day we have more Sunil Chetris and more stars that will represent India and hopefully bring India to the World Cup one day.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So Bo, let's now talk about BCFC, right? The origins of it. Which year did you start off the club, right? What was your vision behind it back then? Was it immediately to produce players? Because I'm sure the ecosystem also did not exist. There weren't too many competitions at the youth level, but you focusing on grassroots, you focusing on young kids, even back then, even I would say back in 2015, 2016, I would say is quite early for me. So what was it that motivated you to focus on grassroots development, and what was your take on it?
Yeah, I think one of the big things that helped me when I was a young player in the Netherlands, in Holland, was the community that I was part of. You know what I mean? Not just coaches, other players, parents, people that lived in the town that I played in, and it was all connected to one another. And I felt like, hey, what if we can build that community, that football culture within India? So not just playing football and playing matches, but a culture, a community around the club and the team. And then I also wanted to bring structure within what I grew up in. So when I grew up in Europe, you can start at, let's say, the under 6 year, 6 and younger level, and then the next year you would move up and you would move up, and there was always these growth opportunities. And then if you kept growing and growing, maybe you could reach the senior team or the reserve team, the highest level within the club, and then maybe from there you can go to a professional club within the area, and then those clubs would work together. So I also wanted to give the players in India a pathway to grow up into the levels of football. So let's say they start with Bangalore City FC at one level, and then take the next step and the next step, and then keep giving them opportunities to learn, to grow, to kind of expand their wings, and giving them, the opportunities potentially, leave the club and go to, to other clubs, higher level clubs. So that was another piece that I really wanted to do. Yeah, and then the third piece was to build a system where we were able to work with other teams, with the state associations, with the AIFF, and and to be able to, but with the end goal is to help our players to reach levels that we could never get them to. So we would basically be a foundational piece, a setup, and then a springboard, or I don't know what you call it, a trampoline, a move forward into other levels. So so structure one, community another one, opportunity as well for the players. Yeah. And then also a place where they can learn. So those were some of the stepping stones that I wanted to start this and get things off the ground.
Very interesting because when I look at this from the perspective of the listeners now who will be listening in, we've got coaches, we've got smaller academies, we've got parents who've put kids into their academies as well. And I think everyone here now is in a way, they're all trying to build their own pathway. They're trying to build something at the foundation level in their own kind of hyper local environment. But one key message that I'm taking from your what you said, it's the community part. That's actually very unique, and I have seen that at the league. I know how BCFC is set up, and it's the community that really comes together to the games. And because it's the games where I really interact with you guys. But I know I have visited your training sessions as well, where we visited your ground and we saw it's just the way you've set it up. There's a nice kind of nice benches for people to sit and interact, for the parents to have a bite while the kids are playing. I think these things are important, and it's that community angle which I think a lot of other clubs and academies can maybe learn from, right? From within their own kind of region. I know you guys come from the northeast region of Bangalore, but whichever part that these academies come from, it's really enabling and getting the community together, whether that's parents, whether it's the kids' siblings, their friends, just getting everyone together and going as a team. So yeah, I agree with that point. I've actually seen that live at the games as well.
Yeah, I think if you come, I mean, certainly, pre-COVID, when the crowds were maybe a little heavier, you were able to, when you would come to some of our matches, you would just find a lot of parents, orange shirts, and I think, again, it's a big part of, when we talk about development of football in India, we usually touch base on a lot of things, and they are super good, and they are all part of it. And, we can go down the list, but I think one aspect that I really believe in that will bring growth of grassroots development in India is community involvement. And to me, the parents are the stakeholders in that, and a big piece. So if we want to grow football in India, if we want to grow the youth players, player development, talent development, to me, the parents have to be part of that. And because when they buy in, the sky is the limit. So yes, we focus on players a lot, but to me, the parents are so important. And I think it's been an important piece of what we do. It's a big part of what we do at BCFC, and it will continue to be a big part of what we do, because to me, it goes hand in hand. The parents are part of it. I think the opportunities are endless. And when they buy into what we want to do and are willing to drive their kids to, across Bangalore, or even send them, we went to Europe, we went to Thailand with our players. I mean, we can do so much. So parents are a big piece of what we do here.
True. Okay. So Bo, you spoke a bit about talent development. I fully agree. Parents are a crucial part, and we will come to the parents towards the end of this podcast as well. But speaking of talent development, right? When you see a player come into the BCFC Academy for the first time, right? How do you approach it? What is talent development for you? How do you approach it? Is there some learnings that the others can take from this? We want to know. Let's just put it this way: when a new kid walks into BCFC, how do you analyze him or her? What's the vision that you set, and what's your goal to develop this player?
I mean, I think the first thing, and then listen, you know this as well. I'm no expert in all of this. I just have my own thought and my own philosophy. I think that's the beauty of football. Like there's different philosophies, different formations, different systems, different approaches to everything that we do. And I don't think one size fits all. But the way I look at it is when we have, let's just, like you said, a very young player that walks through our facility and comes in at BCFC. I think the first thing that we do is have them fully like enjoy the game, want to come to practice, not mom and dad saying you're going there. But when they said, hey, do you want to go practice at BCFC? They're going to be like, oh, yes, it's that time of the day, the time of the week again. So first, we want to instill a deep joy for the game of football within the child. And just when they come, they're going to see their friends, they're going to have fun, they're going to engage. So that's one, because if they don't enjoy it, if they don't like it, then I don't think it's a good fit for the parents nor for the child. So that's the first thing, is make them feel welcome wherever they come from, and make them feel welcome and have them enjoy what they're doing. Then once they are running, laughing, having fun, being part of it, obviously during that time we're also observing them, analyzing them. And so then what we have done right now, kind of the system that we run is we have like a 3-tier system. We have we call it the classic program. And that's for kids that just come in, new kids, but then also kids that are maybe still learning, the basics, that are having a lot of fun, but maybe are still lacking some of the technical pieces. They're still learning, really 4 or 5-year-olds, the passing, the dribbling, where to stand, in what position on the field. And then, so we have this classic group where every player will come into. From that group, once we feel a player is ready, we take him into what's called our mystics group. And I guess you could equate that or relate that to, it's kind of like the second level, the reserve group, almost into the top tier. And then the top tier is what's called the magic group. Those are kids that are well on their way, that not only love the game, can play it at a high level. And so like our U12s, our perfect group, like we there have the direct level, the mystic level, and then you have the magic. And then those guys compete at the highest level, at the highest leagues. They might travel. But here's the cool thing, then the classic group and the mystic group also have opportunities to play matches, to go, but against teams that are maybe more at their level. So it's more competitive matches. They get more touches on the ball. They might not, they're not beating teams by huge scores. They're also not getting defeated by huge scores. So there's that encouragement, that learning. And so that's why we've divided them up in 3 groups. So at whatever level that you're at, you can play your matches, you can get your practices, and you can learn without maybe saying, well, this is so hard and we can't do anything. Other teams are running circles around us, or saying, well, this is too easy and this is not working. We want to create a learning environment. And I feel this level of when they come in and they go in the classic group, and then from there they can move up into different levels, has worked really well for us. And then so this year in your DPDL, we have the 2 levels represented: the magic group, which is kind of our higher elite level group. Yep. Then the mystic group is kind of like the kids that could play magic level one day. And then we still have our recreational level, and they are at our home turf in Northeast Bangalore, still kind of getting ready to play some of what would be DPDL matches, for instance.
Right. Correct. And this is a very interesting way you've kind of put the pathway together. And I know in season 1 the mystics and magics did not exist. I've seen that now, right? I've seen this come, and I fully understand why you've kind of segregated the levels and just to get more game time for more players as well, especially the ones who can make it from mystics to the magics. And here's the interesting thing. I have seen the mystics play. We are into match week 10, right? I watch every game. I watch the magics, I watch the mystics. We are into match week 10, and at their own level, right? Of course, we are a development league, right? That's the key word that we like to call ourselves. So we're going to keep the results aside, but I've seen the kids play. I'm not going to name the kids obviously here, but I've seen the Mystics kids who from week 1 to week 10, they've actually understood spaces. They've understood they've understood how to move. They've understood how to pass. At least they've started understanding positions, on a very basic level. Let's not look at results, but let's
Yeah.
look at these 10 games, uh, even if it's a very small thing that the kid learned. For example, they made a mistake in the previous game, but can they had the ability to think that, hey, this was a mistake, maybe I do not repeat this in the next game that comes in. Even if that has gone in to a 10-year-old or a 9-year-old's mind, I think that itself is a big win, and we build on that game by game, right? And I've seen that from match week 1 to match week 10.
Yeah.
Even the Mystics, right? They've understood spaces better. They've understood their opponents better. They've scored a few goals as well, right? So definitely, and of course, the Magics are a different story. They are, I would say, at the competition level, right? They are right up there in the top 4 or the top 5 all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you prepare, I would say, the Magics here? Of course, Mystics, we know the vision behind it, and they are improving. But in terms of the competition side, there's a lot of, I would say, the mental side as well that needs to come into these kids. Uh, so do you have anything that you look at specifically to train the Magics from a competition perspective?
And competition as in like the league matches and
Yeah, it could be the league matches that you play at DPDL or in other leagues as well, because these are the kids you're kind of honing and training for the competition phase.
yeah. So what we try to do, Sartak, with that, with some of the magic levels, the upper levels, is also give them the opportunity to do video analysis,
Okay.
to see certain game situations, and for them to be able to come back and see themselves. It's one thing to play the game, but then seeing yourself on the field and why are you here versus there. So what we try to do is kind of continue that education with them, not just on the field, but also off the field. So, and that could be from game analysis of their own game. Sometimes our coaches send matches or clips from, I don't know, professional games. We encourage them, to watch games themselves on the TV at home, or even go to, like, in Bangalore, I don't know, it could be super division matches or whatever it is that's going on. So, and then also there's a lot of off the field guidance for these players. Like you said, sometimes there's a lot of pressure for these young players, and the league, sometimes the matches get intense, sometimes the parents can get really excited, even the coaches at times, we can get excited.
Yeah.
Is to help them through the ups and downs of winning, of losing, of I don't know, a referee making a call that maybe is hard for a player. And so we do a lot of that now outside the field, the guidance, the one-on-one, the group meetings, and to prepare them. And then hopefully also, and obviously because of COVID, this came to a halt, but right before COVID is to also take them to other parts of the world. And so we took our U17 to Ajax in Holland, and we took, I believe it was our U10 at that time, to Thailand, and to expose them to different football cultures, the different approaches that are done in different nations, to also, again, to strengthen them, not only on the field, but for them to start thinking about, why does this club, this academy, this culture approach football in this way? And again, it's a global game. So I think the more we expose them to different inputs, different ideas, I think it's going to really help them as they grow as players, and to make them realize that, yes, we want to win the games, but it's about development over winning. And that's sometimes hard. It's hard for parents. It's hard for clubs, academies, even sometimes hard for me as a coach, because obviously you would like to win. But what I'm learning is if we can get the parents and the children to understand that the development piece is so important, and from there everything else will flow. So, again, talking about the mental aspect of it is patience, persistence, commitment, right? Integrity, character, respect, and everything will flow out of that. And so, so that's, we try to help them. And I mean, we try to, a big piece of that too is Sartak, is we also ask, where possible, for loyalty from the parents. Is as we grow together, it's a journey. I don't think there's an easy fix. So one of the things, and this, I see this across the world, so it's not isolated to one area, one continent, is football parents tend to jump quickly from club to club, or if it's not a great season, or it's a harder season, or but what we're trying to ask parents is like, hey, let's run this journey together. And yeah, there's many good clubs all around us with great coaches and great results, but they and they have their players, we have our players. Can the clubs work together, which is great, but then also, can we work through these difficult moments, because you can't win every game, you can't win every championship. And then through doing that commitment from the parent to the club to the parent, I think the mental development, the development of the player and the team is so encouraging and so good to see. And I see that at BCFC. Some of our age groups have been together 3, 4, 5 years, and I commend the parents and the players. But it's the parents usually that make these decisions to pull players for being able to stick with the club, even in times where it's not always easy. Because to me, that brings fruit later on. So that's been really encouraging.
That's really good to hear, especially because, again, this ties back to the community aspect as well. Because once the parent understands, and I know a lot of BCFC parents will be listening to this as well. Some of the new BCFC parents, and of course the ones who've stuck around for a long time, and that's a very important point. That once the parents really merge with the philosophy of the club, the vision behind it, and the long-term commitment to this, I think they will stick around no matter what. The results won't matter, the referee decisions won't matter. It's about the development of the kid ultimately. So that's the point, I think, to be noted, for not just the BCFC parents listening in, but parents of every academy, right? It's important to merge with and understand the vision. What are the coaches? What are the what's the academy trying to achieve? I think it's important to question that as well. If you don't know, which academy that you're working at, right, as parents.
The parents are our stakeholders. I really believe that, and they need to. But there's this saying, the grass is always greener on the other side. You've heard it. Like, things look always better on the other side, at the other academy, at the other club. Somebody long back said, Bo, the grass is greener on the other side. It's because there's a septic tank under it, or a sewage pipe, and meaning that it might look good on the other side, but all the clubs, we have our issues. Here's what I would love to see is, for instance, let's say in Bangalore, there's so many players that we continue to work together as clubs. And here's, if we want to bring growth, Sartak, to football in Bangalore, in Karnataka, in India, is where we have growth is when we bring in new players that are new to the game and we develop them. To me, that's the success story. It's not a success story where we have the same pool of players and we rotate the players around 5, 6, 7 academies over 6, 7 years, because there's no growth. I mean, one academy might win this year, the other one might win that year, but it brings no growth. Where I want to focus on is, you've got your group of players. I don't want those players, you know what I mean? Like, and we've got our group of players. Can you now bring in your own players? We bring in our players, and we can grow football in India at the levels that we've never seen before. And that's where I really want to focus on, not the switching of players, but that you talked about in your last podcast, the players in Austin Town. Can we find that gem in Austin Town, the new player that never really kicked the ball, or the player in Rajasthan or in Kerala, and can we develop academies there and then grow football? And instead of just that circuit of players jump in, we can find new players and add them to the existing pool. I think that's really exciting. So anytime a new player walks into our facility, it's like I want to shoot confetti and like I want to, because that to me is so exciting. A new Indian young footballer that joins. That's what it's all about.
Possibilities. Full of possibilities. Could
and I'm
develop into
telling you,
anything.
Sartak, the possibilities in Indian football. I mean, I often joke that my goal is to be a tiny, tiny little piece of hopefully one day seeing India make the World Cup. Some of my Indian friends, they laugh. They're like, Coach, like this will never happen. I really beg to differ. Maybe I'm too optimistic. When I see the talent in Bangalore, in Karnataka, I've coached in different parts of India. It is here, it is there, and the time is now. Yeah, it might take some time, and we got to get some things in place, but it's not because of the lack of talent. Man, we have it in India, and it's there. So let's go after it. And I believe it that India will make the World Cup, and it's going to be a powerhouse in football across the world. So why not look for the Messis, the Ronaldos, the Robins, the Chetris that are in India, and right now we might not know they're there, but we got to go find them. And I just want to be a small piece of that.
True. Really well said. I think that was quite motivating for me to listen. It was like I'm in your BCFC team huddle right now.
Yeah, sorry.
Good one. No, but point taken. That's a really good message, I think, for all the parents, all the listeners who are listening in today. So we spoke about parents, Bo. Now I think let's talk about coaches, because I've had a long conversation with Vijay about this as well, and Vijay mentioned to me, while his role in 2019 was really, we saw him on the touchline. We saw him with the under sevens, with the under nines, coaching himself. He mentioned to me that now his role is about educating the newer coaches that are coming into BCFC, right? It's about kind of developing them as well, because ultimately a better coach is going to make a better player. So I know Vijay is focusing very heavily on that these days. But a word about how you look at coach education within BCFC, right? There are a lot of new coaches coming in, and I'd like to mention Anand. Anand was, by the way, the first guy who had connected us. So if you and I are on this podcast today, it's Anand was my junior from school. So he's the one who connected us first. So if he's listening in, shout out to Anand. Thank you for connecting us. But yeah, it's the coaches of BCFC who are playing a very integral role. So could you tell us more about your vision and your philosophy of developing the coaches?
Yeah, and we probably vary there a little bit too from maybe what's been a traditional way is. So the way we look at it is when we hire coaches, I don't actually hire Sartak on if you are a B, C, D licensed coach. To be honest with you, I don't really, that's not my priority, what license you have or what letter of the license you have. Yeah. I want a guy that has a deep love for the game or girl, and a deep love for the player, the child, to be able to just invest in them, to see them not just as a win or a loss or just a player on a team, but somebody that's going to be the next successful generation within India. So what we do a lot of times is when we have senior players on our team at BCFC, and I kind of, you observe them, you analyze them, and I see leadership capabilities in them. I see that integrity, the character, respect, love for the game, love for people. Then we start talking to them. And oftentimes they might start as an assistant coach, as a part-time coach. But a lot of our coaches, including Vijay, you just referenced to Vijay, who's now, the technical director, the head of BCFC. He started out assisting and helping, but then he grew and more, and he became a good coach. And then he started getting his D license and then his C license, and now he's doing his B license. And to be quite honest with you, Vijay became a much better coach than I could ever be. I mean, he's light years ahead of where I am as a coach. And to me, Sartak, that is what it's all about. I love that we have foreign coaches that come and help in India. I mean, I get to be part of the Indian football culture in this amazing nation with these amazing people. And how cool is that? However, isn't it our job to work ourselves out of a job? India's got some of the brightest people across the world, including coaches. So then why would I hold on to the lead coaching role or the lead? Because we have the Indian coaches. So just like we look for the raw talent, the hidden gem with the players, I am really focused on finding the next Indian top coach. And because we need, if we want to grow Indian football, not only do we need the player development, and you and I just talked about it, but if you don't have coaches to develop the players, then it's off balance. But we don't need foreign coaches to do that or do it forever. Maybe this is a moment of time that maybe there's foreign coaches like myself can add some things, come alongside, maybe give input if needed, and maybe let people learn from our mistakes and share those mistakes with them. But my end goal has always been to work ourselves out of a job. And so I think Bangalore City FC is to me a huge success story, because if you go to the Bangalore City FC coaching now and their setup, you'll see the Indian coaches, majority, if not mostly, or if not all, are Indian coaches. And most of them are coaches that came without any certificate, any big accolades, any big like, well, I used to be this player and I did this. They were just guys that loved the beautiful game, that played the game, that started getting into coaching. And then what we do at BCFC is we pay for their education. So let's say they want to get for their D license, and then we pay for them to get it. So that's kind of the whole setup, is identifying, looking. But again, the identifiers are not like, do you know all the X's and O's? Can you win me every game? It's, do you love people? Do you love the beautiful game? Do you want to work hard? And are you committed? And do you have integrity, character, and respect? If that's a good pieces you have, I can work with that. And then the title will come later. The wins will come later. So if you look at guys like Parak, who joined us as a senior player, Coach Parak, Coach Eli came as a senior player, right? Then we have Coach Santosh that came in, Coach Vijay. We got Coach Manish, Coach Jonathan. I mean, Coach Jonathan played at the Super Division and whatnot. All these guys came without any diplomas, without any huge knowledge, and now look at them. They're licensed, they're learning and growing, and I get to just look at that and be really proud of our Indian staff, because they have surpassed levels that they've surpassed my level. And that makes my heart feel really full and good. So
absolutely. And I think it's about keeping this core together as well, because now I know Coach Parag he's just started off with his team now as well, and he's building a core team together. I'm seeing his Magics play week in, week out. The under 10s especially, very, very good group that's coming along and playing some good football, playing some really good football. Challenging the better teams and putting up a really good show. Right. So shout out to Coach Parag, because I'm watching his games every week. Right. So now that we've spoken a bit about the coaches, I want to take you back to that moment. There's actually one picture of you, Bo, from DPDL. It's actually one of our most iconic images. It's when you guys had won the under-7 title and everyone just ran onto the pitch, including you. And I think you jumped the highest out of everyone who was on the pitch. You're right up there. I think 2 or 3 feet above the ground, right? So tell me about that moment, right? Let's walk me through what you felt. Because I know it meant a lot. It meant a lot to you. That final day, the whole place had turned orange. It was a great kind of atmosphere that we had there. And I know it meant a lot to you. So walk me through what you felt at DPDL on that day.
Yeah, that was more than just running on the field and winning a championship with the kids. That jump, which that jump that I heard after that jump, like the old Coach Bo legs. The mind thought I could do it. The legs didn't work as well afterwards. But that moment to me, I mean, it encapsulated. There was a lot of emotion in that moment, and here's some of the emotions that happened in that moment. Is when we started Bangalore City FC, we started on a sandy, dusty field somewhere. Coach Vijay and I, together, and I think we had 3 to 4, maybe 3 to 5 kids that showed up. One was like 7, and one was like 14, and I'm looking, and I'm like, how is this going to work? And as I was coaching, there was this sand twirl spinning on the field, sand in my face, and I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. Like how, like this didn't work out. Did I make a mistake? Did I, and I remember coming home that night and talking to my wife, Holly, and I was really discouraged because I thought it's going to be this grand opening with all the kids and all the teams would be set. And here there were like 3-4 kids on a sandy field, and it just didn't work well. The practice didn't go well. I did terrible. And I remember my wife just saying, along the lines of like, Bo, you're not a quitter. And what like what God's laid on your heart and what you want to do, and go for it. And so that was the journey where those 3 or 4 kids became 8, and then it became 20, and then 40, and then it started running into the hundreds of kids. And then we built our own little AstroTurf in Northeast Bangalore, right? And that journey was like, I think Coach Vijay and I lost like 10 years of our life building that turf. Like the stress of building a turf. And this was new to us, Sartak. Like, I'd never, I didn't know half the time what we were doing. And thank God for Vijay and his sanity and his wisdom. But long story short is we walked through such ups and downs with, there were snakes on our property, and we had sewage that entered into our property when we were building. And, there were so many setbacks and difficulties, and things didn't work out. And I'm trying to learn, like the football culture in India, and I'm constantly making mistakes, and I'm not always doing well. So fast forward, and then we started this in 2015, 16. 2015, the paperwork. 16, we started the academy, or the club, and then here we are. I believe it was 2020, and after 4 years or so of, and I'm incredibly hard work, where we would be on the field sometimes at 6 a.m. till 9, 10 at night, and just plugging away. And Vijay sometimes like, Coach, like, what are you doing? Like, and I kept pushing and pushing. I said, we're going to get there. And then that moment where we've worked out so hard, to see the community and the parents, like, I saw tears, I saw laughter, I saw joy. You know what I mean? I saw competition and all of that. To see that, it cut so deep for me, because it brought me back to my days in Europe, with the community, with the team, with hard work and commitment, and starting from literally, we started from scratch. We didn't have much. We didn't have a whole lot of money. We didn't have a whole lot of players. We didn't have our own field. And then for our young little Lions to go through this long season against really good teams, you know what I mean, that were just as competitive. We just, were a little luckier in that final to make it. It brought it full circle for me. But then also to see the Indian coaching staff on the sideline coach and win that match, and me being outside.
You were outside.
Eventually,
You were behind
eventually
the goal.
running in because I couldn't contain my joy. But isn't that what it's all about? It's the community, the Indian coaches, the Indian players,
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I mean, I got a little too excited. So my apologies. I went on the field. I think
No.
one of your
It was an iconic moment. It's one of
but
it will go down as one of the DPDL classics, that one.
one of your staff told me, they came up to me, Sartak, and they were like, Coach Bo, like, you're not supposed to be on the field. And I'm like, yeah, let's be honest. I'm like, whatever, like, I'm celebrating.
I
So
know.
if you're watching now, I forgot who it was, my apologies, but but it was so deep within me, because my heart's desire was to bring football and community to Bangalore, in addition what was already there, the great things that were happening and the amazing things that are happening. I just wanted to add to that, and to see that moment.
Yeah.
It became the circle of life, or the circle of football for me. I felt mission accomplished in that moment. That was my mission, and we accomplished that with our Indian staff. So I got to be on the picture as the guy jumping, but Sartak, that there was all the Indian staff, and you see it now. Is I'm just sometimes get to be a little bit of the face of it, but it's the Indian staff that gets us to where they need to go. So I'm forever grateful for our full-time and part-time staff.
True. Yeah, I think that moment really summed it up for me. It was an amazing day for us as well. I remember BCFC parents reaching out to me at the end of the final, the next day, maybe a day or two later as well, and just still being in the buzz of that moment. A lot of I got a few messages from some of the BCFC parents, saying what's going to happen, next weekend for us. The weekends were DPDL, so they really enjoyed it, and I know that. I know what that final day meant to my team as well. We were overjoyed to see, so many kids just, looking at their medal and just admiring it. It's just a medal. It's a very small medal, but it's actually 25 games of hard work that they put in over a period of 6-7 months, right? That got them there. And these are babies, right? These are 7-year-olds, 9-year-olds who've just started off. So it was wonderful to see. And obviously
And then some of those
BCFC.
players, Sartak, now that were there at that day when BCFC won the U7, the U9, and then made the finals in the U12s. Correct me if I'm wrong.
U11s,
U11, sorry. Some of those players now have moved on. Some of our players have gone to BFC. Some of our players are maybe elsewhere. And to me, it's like, yeah, at the end of the day, it's a win, because they're playing, whether that's with us or elsewhere. There's so many wins that came out of that moment. And yeah, maybe they're playing for a competitor right now, or a competitor on the field, but they're playing. And to me, that is the end goal. Keep them playing, keep them engaged. And if it's with us, great. Obviously, we'd love that. But if they decide to go elsewhere, let's send them off with integrity, with respect, with a handshake, fist bump, and move from there. We got to work together here. And I think it's happening at times, so it's hopefully going to continue.
Well, I think Coach Bo, that's I think this, for me, this podcast was inspiring. I actually learned quite a few things from you today, especially the community angle. Sometimes I always think about it, always talk about it, but to see it executed, I think I've seen it executed by your club. I've seen it executed, and I see it week in, week out. So kudos to you guys. I think the story of BCFC is a very inspiring one, not just for a league like ours, but also for all the academies that are growing up, that are trying to now enter the space of football into the city, who are trying to achieve something. I think your model is a very unique one, something that everyone can learn something from, whether it's the parents, the coaches, or the players themselves. So yeah, I mean that's I think all we have time for. And but yeah, I obviously want to leave the floor open to you, Bo. If there's anything that you'd like to add, it's been kind of inspiring conversation for me with you. Would you like to end it with anything you'd like to say?
I mean, I would end it with, I mean, again, I don't know everything. I'm learning a lot, but for those academies that are out there, if you're thinking about starting an academy, there is no shortcuts. You can take shortcuts, but I think that will come back later on and maybe hurt. is build deep foundations. And that means having to do the hard, the dirty work, to starting from scratch, to starting on a sandy, dusty field somewhere in Bangalore, building from the ground up. And but don't take shortcuts, and build something strong and lasting, but be okay with humble beginnings, and just work your way up. And it sets yourself up for longevity in the future. And then, I think for us as existing academies, and there's several really great ones in Bangalore, or clubs, is my hope is that we can expand in parts of India where there are no academies. So I love that we're bringing kids maybe from other areas of India to Bangalore to give them the opportunity. That's one way to do it, and it's not a bad way. But how about we keep them with their families, we keep them in their communities, we keep them in the areas that they grow up, and instead of bringing them to Bangalore, how about we bring football from Bangalore to them? So it is my personal hopes, desire, and my next focus in our journey to open up academies in parts of India where they don't have access to what we have in Bangalore. So that is my personal hope. And the next 5 years are going to be fully committed to opening academies in those parts of India where there's talent, where there is community, and where there is new clubs needed. And I hope that some of the other academies in Bangalore are joining me. And I know some of them are already doing it or looking at it. And I think that'd be a great win for football in India. So, and Sarthak, thanks for everything. You and I have had some amazing talks. We've had some pretty strong, like iron sharpens iron. Like when iron sharpens iron, the sparks fly. It gets a little loud. Sometimes you and I agree on everything, and sometimes we didn't agree on certain things.
Yep.
But I think you've taught me a lot. You're very knowledgeable. You know what you want, what you're doing. You're a man of integrity, and that's just been you've been a great addition to our football journey in India. So thanks for just keeping me on my toes, and for sharing and taking time. So I appreciate it.
Thank you for the kind words, Bo. And obviously we miss you here at DPDL. We are looking forward to seeing you and your family back here in Bangalore. And obviously, I think this is a really nice way that you ended it, where you said you are planning to take football to the other parts of the country. That's a very very important point. Any guesses? I mean, can we take guesses on where you're going?
I think this is a great piece to put in the comment section. Maybe people can put in the comment section, where should we go to build our next academy, or where do you think we will go? No, but it will be in the in the northern part of India, looking at several really good areas where the talent is there. The structure isn't there yet. Like we have a structure in Bangalore now. There's a structure in some of the big cities. I want to bring structures in some of the areas where the kids are there, the talent is there, the community is there, but they don't have the opportunities to come to a field or to get coaching like we do in Bangalore. So I'm looking at some of the more undeveloped football areas of India, and that's just what I believe in, personal choice. I think there's some really good players that we're going to find there, and hopefully one day they will also get the chance to represent their state, their nation. So I'm excited.
Very exciting indeed. Well, Bo, really appreciate your time. I know this is you've just witnessed one of the most special moments in life just a few days ago. And even after that, you gave us your time, from so many, so many thousands of miles away. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much once again. And I'm going to see you at DPDL in a month or two.
That's right. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Bo. Thanks so much. Thanks for listening in. So much to learn and so much to absorb from that episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Catch us again on the DPDL Talent Development Podcast as we bring to you another episode with a leading expert. Until then, we'd love to hear from you. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or shoot us an email at developmentleague@doublepass.com.